Stockholm, October 2024. The fluorescent lights of TV4's studio cast harsh shadows across three weathered faces. These elderly men, once young operatives in Europe's deadliest shadow war, shift uncomfortably in their chairs. The first stares defiantly into the camera, denying everything. The second's hands tremble as he shakes his head. The third simply stares at the floor, claiming memory loss. But in a vault just kilometers away, newly declassified documents tell a different story, one of calculated extremism, 27 lost lives, and perhaps the most improbable survival in human history. What really happened to JAT Flight 367? And why have these men broken 50 years of silence? Imagine your heart pounds as you plummet through the freezing air. The ground rushes toward you at terminal velocity. No parachute, no safety net. Just 33,000 feet of empty space between you and the inevitable. For most people, this would be their final moment. But for one woman, it was just the beginning of an extraordinary story that would defy science, probability, and everything we thought we knew about human survival. This is the story of Vesna Vulović, and like all great mysteries, it begins with a simple choice that changed everything. Belgrade, 1972. The Cold War had carved Europe into a chessboard of competing ideologies, with Yugoslavia precariously balanced between East and West. Croatian separatist groups were waging an increasingly violent campaign against the state, planting the seeds of conflict that would eventually tear the nation apart. But for 22-year-old Vesna Vulović, politics was the furthest thing from her mind that January morning. Born on January 3rd, 1950 in Belgrade, Vesna embodied the optimism of a new decade. She loved music, dreamed of adventure, and saw infinite possibilities in the world that stretched before her. Her job as a flight attendant for JAT Airways seemed perfect, a chance to see the world while making a living. But fate had other plans, beginning with a simple schedule swap that would put her on a collision course of tragic proportions. January 26, 1972 dawned clear and cold. As passengers boarded Flight 367 in Stockholm, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But during the Copenhagen stopover, something caught Vesna's trained eye. One man seemed terribly annoyed, she would later recall, her voice still carrying the weight of that observation. It wasn't only me that noticed him. Other crew members saw him, as did the station manager. He checked in a bag at Stockholm, got off in Copenhagen, and never reboarded the flight. What was in that bag? And why did airport security, so different from today's stringent measures, fail to stop what was about to unfold? The DC-9 cruises at 33,000 feet over Czechoslovakia. In the baggage compartment, a deadly countdown had begun. At exactly 4:01 p.m., the explosion came without warning. In an instant, the DC-9 aircraft shattered like glass in the thin, frigid air. The fuselage splits apart, scattering debris and passengers across the winter landscape below. Vesna, still strapped to her seat in the tail section, began what should have been a fatal plunge toward Earth. In the snow-covered forest near Zerbska Kamenika, a villager named Bruno Honk heard something that defied explanation. A woman's screams among the wreckage. What he found would astonish the world. Vesna, still strapped to a piece of the aircraft, her uniform stained crimson, her 3-inch heels torn off by the impact. Bruno wasn't just any villager. He was a former World War II medic, perhaps the one person in miles capable of keeping Vesna alive until help arrived. The numbers alone stagger the imagination. A fall from 33,000 feet typically takes about 3 minutes. The human body reaches terminal velocity at around 120 miles per hour. The impact force should have been absolutely fatal, yet through a series of nearly impossible coincidences, the food cart that pinned her in place, her low blood pressure that may have prevented her heart from bursting, Bruno, the former World War II medic, and the snow-covered slopes that cushioned her landing, Vesna survived. But survival came at a devastating cost. A fractured skull, broken vertebrae, crushed legs, temporary paralysis. As she lay in a coma for 27 days, investigators began piecing together a puzzle that would take half a century to complete. In the immediate aftermath, as Vesna fought for her life in a Prague hospital, investigators confronted a web of possibilities. Mechanical failure, the DC-9 had a clean maintenance record. Weather conditions, the skies were clear that day. Human error, while human human error is often a factor in aviation accidents, eyewitness accounts and physical evidence quickly suggested a more sinister cause, a mystery the recovered black box would be crucial in solving. The blast epicenter was located in the forward cargo hold, suggesting the explosion originated from luggage or cargo. The recording captured a catastrophic event at cruising altitude, an explosion that would leave traces of PETN, a plastic explosive commonly used by extremists. But this wasn't just an isolated incident. The same day, another explosion rocked a train from Vienna to Zagreb, injuring 6. The next day, a man claiming to be a Croatian nationalist called a Swedish newspaper taking responsibility. A pattern emerged. In just 2 decades, Croatian nationalist groups had carried out 128 extremist attacks against Yugoslav targets. But who was behind this particular attack, and why did it take 50 years to uncover the truth? The attack sent shockwaves through European security services. Evidence suggested the Ustasi had connections across borders, possibly even support from sympathetic foreign governments. For decades, the investigation stalled. Theories multiplied like shadows at dusk. Some claimed the plane was shot down by mistake. Others pointed to different extremist groups. The attack had exposed frightening inadequacies in 1970s airport security. During the Copenhagen stopover, the cargo hold had been accessible to anyone with an airport service badge. It was a vulnerability that extremists had exploited with deadly precision. But in October 2024, Swedish TV4's documentary Kalla Fakta, Hard Facts, would reveal just how close investigators had come to unraveling the entire plot. Investigative journalist Tonsi Perkin uncovered classified Yugoslav state security service documents that read like a spy thriller. They revealed an intricate plot led by Josip Senik, a leader of the Croatian Revolutionary Brotherhood, involving 7 other operatives who acquired explosives from Germany, constructed the bomb, and executed the attack. For Vesna, these political intrigues meant little compared to the human toll. 27 lives had been lost in a needless, violent act. Families were torn apart, communities shattered. Her survival, miraculous as it was, came with its own burden. Survivor's guilt would haunt her for decades. When she regained consciousness after 27 days in a coma, Vesna had to process not only her own trauma, but the devastating impact on her family. The extensive and expensive medical treatments placed an enormous financial burden on her parents. In Yugoslavia at the time, such expenses were largely out of pocket, and the stress of managing those overwhelming costs, along with the emotional strain of almost losing their daughter, took a severe toll. Her father's health declined rapidly, and he passed away just a few years later. Her mother bore the weight alone, watching her daughter struggle through the countless surgeries and rehabilitation sessions. Yet Vesna displayed remarkable resilience. Despite being left with a permanent limp, she returned to work at JAT Airways in a desk role. Her story captured global attention, earning her a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, and even a memorable meeting with Paul McCartney. Vesna found solace in her faith, becoming a devout Christian in the years following the crash. She often spoke about how her survival felt like a miracle, and believed that her life had been spared for a purpose. "I'm not afraid of flying," she would often say years later. "I don't even think about the crash. I just live my life." While the case officially remains unsolved, the 2024 revelations finally offer closure to one of the greatest mysteries of Cold War Europe. They tell a story of political extremism, of lives callously destroyed in pursuit of a cause, and of one woman's impossible survival that brought it all to light. But her legacy lives on in every airport security check, every baggage scan, every airline safety protocol. Her story stands as a testament to both the depths of human cruelty and the heights of human resilience. The science of her survival still baffles experts. The combination of factors, her position in the tail section, the food cart that pinned her in place, her low blood pressure, the snow-covered landing site, and the immediate care from a former war medic created a perfect storm of survival, so improbable that it reads like fiction. But as those 3 elderly men in the Stockholm studio remind us, truth is often stranger than fiction, and sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones that take the longest to tell. Thanks for watching From the Ashes. If you're enjoying this content, remember to like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when the next story is released. Thanks again for watching.